Okay, so this whole entire meal cost costed 10,000 bucks on the first date. And okay, so when the time came when they asked for the check, the guy went to the toilet and didn't come back. Who should pay for the date? Is it the guy or the girl, or splitting the bill? I personally believe that the men should be the ones paying for the date, at least maybe for the very initial date, because to show that he's chivalrous and to show respect for the lady, and to show that the lady is valued, that it's not just some casual hangout where roommates share pizzas, chipping in $2 to share pizza. So chivalry has not gone obsolete, people. Hi everyone, welcome back to Date Right for Your Type. I'm Dr. Sandy Toe, and today we're going to be talking about who pays on a date. Okay, this has been such a perennially interesting topic and full of controversy because it's something that you never discuss beforehand, right? So say you were, texting and you had like a really good conversation with a guy, and then you decided to go out on a first date, right? So I'm really sure that like 100% of the people would not spell out who's gonna pay for the date, right? Before going to the date. So that just makes it very nebulous, like this whole thing, like there's no clarity in this issue, and it just makes it so embarrassing when the time comes and like everyone's trying to figure out, well, should is it the guy who should pay or the girl who should pay, right? So it's very confusing nowadays. And what triggered this topic was like a piece of news that happened like within a month ago, like something that happened really recently. I don't know if you've read it before in the news, but I'm sure it was splashed all over the news. It's this couple who met online, and they decided to come out for a first date, right? So mind you, it's the very first date, physical date they would see each other. And they went to this 5-star swanky hotel, and guess how much the bill amounted to? Right, it was 10,000 bucks. Okay, so on the very first date, they spent 10,000 bucks US dollars, which is 80,000 bucks Hong Kong dollars. So yeah, it took place in Hong Kong in a 5-star hotel. And yeah, the very first date racked up a bill of 10,000 bucks. Within this 10,000, the 9,000 bucks was spent on a bottle of Krug champagne. Okay, some sort of limited edition Krug champagne, which cost 9,000 bucks. Okay, so this whole entire meal costed 10,000 bucks on the first date. And the most interesting part, or the most controversial part, was that the guy went to the toilet and never came back. Okay, so when the time came when they asked for the check, the guy went to the toilet and didn't come back, and had the lady pay for the bill herself. Yeah, so the girl was completely like lost, because I don't know what she was expecting. Maybe that they would split the bill, or the guy would pay for the bill, or at least she wouldn't be left sitting there alone with the bill, okay, with the 10,000 bucks. Okay, so she had to call her friends to help settle the bill. Probably all her credit cards were maxed out. So she had to call upon help to settle the 10,000 bucks. Okay, so that was like highly controversial. And the police were involved too, because she actually called the police about this, because it's like a matter of being conned. Okay, so she felt she was conned, and she called the police. So it's become like this sort of case now. Okay, so the guy was actually arrested for conning a woman of an extravagant meal. Yeah, it reminded me of the Tinder swindler, this notorious case you probably heard before, when this guy conned women from all over the world of millions. Yeah, so in this case, in Hong Kong, this guy was conning a woman of an expensive meal. And it's not the first one, too. It turned out that he had several women whom he conned extravagant meals out of. Yeah, so I guess that's his thing. That was his thing. Like, instead of like money or cash outright, like he conned them of expensive meals. Okay, so that's really sort of deplorable, isn't it? So yeah, it became like a famous case right now. So this brings us to the question: who should pay for the date? Is it the guy or the girl, or splitting the bill? Right? So it's very controversial. I think probably if the guy had said something like, "Oh, let me take you out on a date," right? Let me take you out for a meal, or let's celebrate something. Let me take you out for drinks. Okay, so if someone says very explicitly, "Let me take you out," so I would imply that that means that the person who said that would pay, right? So regardless of it being your date or being a girlfriend or a colleague, someone who says, "Hey, let's celebrate you getting a raise. Let me take you out." So that just means that they're the ones who's gonna pay, right? So there's no controversy about that. But usually, like on a date, it's not marked as clearly, especially nowadays. Okay, so especially in the modern day. In the past, it was not as confusing as before, because it was taken for granted that like the gentleman who asks a girl out, like who courts a woman, is the one who picks her up in a carriage, and then plans everything, the picnic, and orders the food, and just the woman just needs to show up and look pretty and be nice, and that's it, right? So the woman never has to take out her wallet or to think about who's gonna settle the bill, like when the time comes. So women are sort of free from this confusion, and men too. Men are also free from this confusion before, right? So because it's a taken for granted fact that they're gonna be the ones who's gonna settle the bill, right? Who planned everything in advance. But nowadays, it just becomes much more confusing, because women earn salaries, like women are working as hard as men, and everyone, gets paid, and everyone has money, and it's not like you can't afford to pay for your own meal anymore. You have to rely on someone to do it. So it becomes confusing for both parties. On behalf of on part of the women, they're thinking, oh, maybe these are obsolete traditional values. How come the man has to pay? I can pay for myself just as well. I have money of my own. I settle the bill all the time, right? So it's so easy to just take out your card and or split the bill. When the time comes, I'll say, oh, why don't we split it or something? And the men, the poor men, they're also confused too, because in the past, these were it's an act of chivalry, right? To pay for a lady because he's the one asking her out and courting her. The least he can do is show that he values her. He values her company, right? So of course he's going to be the one who's going to settle the costs of the date, right? So there's no controversy about that at all. But now the poor men, sitting there, okay, check please, and then the woman, takes out her credit card and, oh, okay, let's split it or something. So what is a guy to do, right? So probably, some guys, they would just go along with it and say, oh, okay, sure, let's split it, or I've got this, you can pay for ice cream or something, right? So, okay, so let me give you my take on this. All right. So my take is that I still consider traditional values to stand. Okay. So they're not obsolete. I personally believe that the men should be the ones paying for the date, at least maybe for the very initial date, because to show that he's chivalrous and to show respect for the lady, and to show that the lady is valued. So it's not even a question of money, okay? So come on, we know that the lady can take care of herself, okay? Right? So chivalry has not gone obsolete, people. I mean, the men should still be the ones who shoulder the responsibility and the ones who make sure that this date is an official date, right? It's just like seals the deal that it's not just some casual hangout where roommates share pizzas, chipping in $2 to share pizza. So it's more special than that. Like, it's probably the only way nowadays that men the most easy way that men could show their appreciation and value of the women's company. Okay, so because it does get harder and harder, right? Because nowadays the women can buy their own stuff and can go out on their own, can do everything on their own. Like they don't really need like company, or as I said, it's like a choice, not a need. So it becomes even harder for the men to sort of seal the deal or to show appreciation, right? So come on, these gestures, these traditional gestures still matter. Okay, so this is a really important way that men can still show that the woman is significant and that he values and treasures her and sees her as special. Okay, so this really does matter a lot. Because I had talked to a woman before. She's really accomplished and she works as a TV executive, and she has a master's degree from Oxford on scholarship. Okay, so she's like really accomplished, and she's dating an entrepreneur who's penniless, as she had said so herself. So she's a satisficer. Okay, so let's bring out another type. One of the types is a satisficer type, who's you would say the opposite of a maximizer type or a traditionalist type. Their goal is marriage. They have the same goal, is that they want the relationship to end in marriage, and they're looking for a marriage partner. They would like to get married someday, but that's it. That's their sole focus. They don't care about men's economic status, their finances. So unlike the maximizers and the traditionalists who actually have more traditional values and they want to find a man who is a breadwinner type, the satisficers. So this term is a combination of satisfy and suffice. Okay, so it's from Herbert Simon's rational choice theory. Yeah, so it's adapted from this theory. So they are actually satisfied with having their marriage goals met. So they don't need to fulfill any economic goals on the part of men. Okay, so they can take care of that themselves. So this girl that I interviewed, who's like a high-powered TV executive, she didn't mind at first dating a penniless tech entrepreneur, right? So she thought that, oh, he was so talented and he's so funny and so amusing, like I love him to bits, except there's just one thing. I can't say tiny because it's like became big. Okay, so there's one major thing that I can't stand about him, is that whenever we go on a date, he always takes me to the cheapest restaurants possible, street stalls. Okay, so to be exact, he always takes me to those street vendors on the street where you just sit on the street to have a bowl of noodles or some fish balls or something. And those are like, what, 20, like $10, less than $10, like $5 for a bowl of noodles or something. Okay. And he still splits the bill. He still asks me to pay for my noodles or something. Okay, so isn't that bad enough that for every single meal they go to these street vendors, but like worst of all, he needs her to pay for her own share? come on, like I don't really believe that the guy cannot even afford a $5 bowl of noodles. Okay, just does not make sense. And it just made her feel very, very undervalued. Yeah, so unloved and uncherished and unspecial. So she, at that time, she was thinking of breaking up with him because she was just like really fed up with that, of being treated like, I don't know, like a buddy or something. She just doesn't feel like a girlfriend. And I totally could understand, yeah, her feelings, like really undervalued. And hence, it's important for a guy to show through the gesture of paying, of planning and paying for a date to make the woman feel special. And that's still sorely needed in this day and age. I'm not talking about paying for like a $9,000 Krug bottle of Krug champagne, okay? So it's not going like the extravagant route, okay? So if you're like not very well off, you can still show appreciation by going to mid-tier restaurants. Like there are plenty of mid-range restaurants for you to choose from besides 5-star hotels, right? So like sometimes you take her to mid-tier restaurants and save up to show appreciation, like show that she matters by saving up and sometimes splurging on a nice meal on an anniversary or something. These are all things that are necessary to show one's love, for a woman or each other. And in return, like I'm sure the woman sometimes could also pay for some of the dates or show appreciation by maybe buying you stuff. And this is how couples show appreciation for each other. Okay, so especially if the guy is courting a girl in the first few dates, this is how he distinguishes her from like a colleague sharing a pizza, right? That's the least that he can do. I have one suggestion for when the guy is super broke and he really cannot afford to go to those mid-range restaurants. Why doesn't he cook for the woman? Yeah, like it pays to learn a few tricks, right? So who doesn't like a man who cooks? Maybe, just cook up some pasta or some like some stir fry or something. How hard can that be? But I'm so sure it's not even a matter of tasting really good, but well, it can't taste horrible, but I'm sure the woman would appreciate it. Who doesn't appreciate a man spending all this energy and time to make a meal for them, right? So they'll be even more touched by that gesture than you whining and dining them all the time in an expensive restaurant. How much effort will that be, right? So I think for the women, it's the effort. Sometimes like the feeling of being cherished and loved that matters the most. It's more than money itself. Okay, so yeah, if you don't have your own place, maybe you can go cook at her place or borrow a friend's place or ask your roommates or your parents to go out and don't come back until late. And so you can have the house to yourself to cook for your girlfriend, right? So wouldn't that be lovely as well? I'm sure that all the girls would appreciate that. So remember there was this scene in The Materialists in Dakota Johnson's new movie where she and Chris Evans, like they had like a huge full-blown fight in the middle of the street in their car because he said that he didn't want to pay for expensive parking in New York City to go to that restaurant, right? He booked like an expensive restaurant for their anniversary. And they were in a traffic jam, and Dakota was fretting that they would have to forfeit the down payment. Like they paid a deposit. Yeah, they paid a deposit to go to that expensive restaurant, and if they're late for 10 minutes, they would have to forfeit the deposit, right? So and they're like having this argument that led to them breaking up over a possible expensive meal. Okay, that didn't materialize, and about arguing about like money, how much money to spend on a date and to go to an expensive restaurant or not to celebrate a special occasion, right? So these are things that will creep up as you go along. So if the guy is already, stingy, I should just use stingy, okay? If the guy were stingy on the first dates, what do you think would happen during the relationship? Do you think that he would still put a lot of value in you to show appreciation to you, for you, right? So, it's something that's food for thought, okay? So if he doesn't show that he cherishes you in the initial moments, it means that he's not going to during the relationship. And that is a huge red flag. Okay, thank you so much for being here. If you have any comments or valuable suggestions, please go to our Instagram page where we can discuss. Okay, so see you again next week and have a wonderful day.